right, we'll review the minutes from last meeting. I read through and had a couple of questions on that. The one question was, did we applied for a grant for survey on refencing over Canyon Ferry?
We did, and we were turned down. They didn't, the
Okay.
aeronautics board did not put any money out for stuff like that. They went with the asphalt repairs, and they were short of money compared to the year before, and so they went for the hard infrastructure money, and
Okay.
so, well, I'll put in again this next year, and I visited with Daryl about it once since, and I told him we were turned down, but we'll see if we can't get it this next year, and if not, maybe we can come up with some help money or something to do that survey and get it out of the way before they start doing anything on that campground.
Well, I think, anybody have any changes on the minutes from the last meeting to it? Otherwise, we'll accept the minutes and we'll talk about it.
Okay, I'll move the minutes be approved.
Second.
Motion,
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Down at the very last, we posed a question of going through the fence, and I think there's also some question from you, Daryl.
Yeah.
Why don't you take the floor?
Want to do that now?
Yeah.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I'm Daryl Folkford. I had a fellow call me from Helena, and his question was, or would there be a possibility of allowing hangar homes at the Townsend Airport in the future? So I knew that we had discussed this at the last meeting a little bit.
Yeah, we
And-
discussed through the fence.
Yeah, through the fence. So anyway, I think Rick might have some information for us tonight on that.
Yeah, he was going to get some at least
Yeah.
to follow up on that.
So I don't know, did the board, or was there a restriction for future hangar homes on the airport itself? Was that ever done, or?
I don't know
Or they-
that we really voted against anything like that. It was just on a room available basis, and
Okay,
My understanding is that was shut down by DEQ regulations because there's
Okay.
not enough
FAA.
land space to put a septic system for each hangar location.
mhm,
That's my understanding of why there's no more hangar houses, because you can't put a septic system in.
okay,
That's my understanding.
sure.
It wasn't that at the existing airport property now,
Correct.
what, there's been talk about putting it in at the south end, if that taxiway was ever put in, that was still open, because there's plenty of land over there.
Outside of airport land.
No, you know where the jog is in the fence,
Uh-huh.
and where we've talked about bringing a taxiway off the existing up to create more hangar spaces.
Towards the fairgrounds.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct,
That
okay,
new- that
yes,
new plan that they're wanting to do.
right.
The new section.
I think that
You're
was,
saying that space there?
I think that's been talked about.
No, and but that's the only thing I know of why there's the hangar house moratorium, or whatever you want to call it, is because of a septic system. There's not enough land.
The
At
only
one
thing I
time-
read up on, from what little time I had to read up on it, was also they didn't want the hangar homes to privatize the airport. It's a public airport. So when they did changes, they were thinking, hangar homes kind of make it seem more like a private airport rather than a public or open to the public type airport.
and
And I think since we have a public designation, I don't know if they will have on-site hangar houses.
at one time there was an FAA moratorium on that too, and I don't know if that's changed.
That has.
That has been changed,
That's gone away.
yeah.
Mhm.
Good.
And that's where I had brought up through the fence portion, because I was looking at going through the fence. I personally I'm all for through the fence, but it would be from private through the fence. But then we might find out some more information on that from Rick. The original information was, holy mackerel, do you really want to go through that? So I would present back to you, Mr. Darrow, is the county maybe interested in doing those hoops that we heard about from Rick?
Sure.
And he might have some more information today on
Yeah.
that. So, because
Well-
I think that goes back to the county on,
Yeah.
are they willing to jump through those hoops?
I guess that would be, if there was a recommendation from the board to pursue that, then I guess the county would, see, so
Okay.
we take our guidance from you guys. If you think that's something that's beneficial for our community, for our airport, then we'll pursue it. And if that's something, I guess that's how we'll approach that.
All
Would
right.
definitely think the interest.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's, I've had more than one call.
Yeah,
And
Okay.
probably the same gentleman called
That'd be-
me,
might be.
and I've had several, obviously the last year, do the same call.
Okay.
I mean, there's probably two things to check. If we checked on the new taxiway type addition, what is the land required? That might only be enough for 2 hangar houses, where it would knock out 6 hangars maybe?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how
Sure.
that would go space-wise.
Okay.
So I think that would be 2 things, but I do believe you have to have over an acre to put a subdivision or a septic system on, so
Sure.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Do you know, Rick?
Depends what the county sanitarian
Yeah.
says.
Right.
Yeah.
We'd have to work with our county sanitarian and see what he says. So he would be the guy that could guide us with DEQ as well. So I mean, you guys just let me know what you think you want to do. If you want to pursue it, we'll try to get some more answers. But if it's a hard no, then we won't.
Oh, Rick, you have anything more on that, Rick?
No, I just know it's a difficult.
Thank you, Darrell.
I apologize, I'm late. I hit that construction I forgot about just this side of Helena. So I called Mike. I guess he's not here today. Anyhow, that through the fence we're familiar with, and a couple of other locations, and it does present you difficulties. So, I think the biggest advice is getting in with the FAA early and making sure you're playing according to Hoyle, just how they want to do it. So it won't be done an overnight kind of thing. So you definitely want to make sure you're on board with the local ADO.
Mm-hmm.
And that's through the fence.
Right.
How about hangar homes on property?
I want to say that the county signed an agreement not to do any more of those quite a while ago, like 15 years ago. So it'll take some
Yeah.
digging to find that out.
Homes on the airport.
I know you do, and I want to say there may even be agreements in place that say once those are sold, they can't be homes anymore. So
Yeah, and there used to be some FAA regulations in there that.
but that may have changed with that new. So we should probably compare whatever that agreement was 15 years ago versus the new
All right.
guidance.
I know when Bill was the representative from Pescia, that him and Ferguson used to go round and round about that, because Bill said, according to the regulations now, you can't sell that to another party to live as a hangar home.
And he was correct at that time. Whether or not this new guidance gives you a little more latitude, we would have to investigate.
Yeah, well, essentially it's gone on within the last year or so.
Right.
Over there, and maybe the FAA doesn't know. I don't know.
Because
No,
we've
they
got
know.
2 sold.
Pardon?
We have 2 sold.
Oh yeah, if there was sales, they don't know about it.
So, yeah.
So I guess that's on my to-do list for investigating about the, or do you want to open that can of worms?
I would like to see what
Yeah.
it's going to
What
involve,
is it?
and if the county's interested
What
in
is it?
going along with it, both through the fence and down on the south end of the airport where the jog is, with, because I don't really know that that land is gonna be used for anything else. It's kinda out in no man's land, too far away from where the FBO station's supposed to be, and
Mm.
it'd be worth finding out
Okay, I'll put it on the list to
how steep the mountain is.
see how steep that mountain is with the FAA. Okay?
Thank you.
Well, Al, I guess my 2 cents on the subject is I understand it can be a double-edged sword. Our experience so far has been positive. I mean, the people that live on the airport are very involved and are good stewards of the property and often on the board and whatever, so far it has been positive. I understand that may not always be the case, but I think it's worth recognizing that it has been positive
Oh, yeah.
for many, many years.
It'd be nice to know a definitive answer too,
Yeah.
because we keep having
Right.
questions.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to not have to tittle about it every time we get a
Right.
question.
Right. Well, that's what Rick said. He'd find out what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, because there's two issues here we're talking. The one is hangar house on airport property and access through the fence from private property. That's two.
And they are two separate issues with
Yeah.
the FAA.
Yeah, we know you can have access through the fence. I've checked in on that, I know that is real, and it's available. It is the hoops for that we want to jump through that Rick brought up before, for, the county, so that we'd have to, pursue that through the county through the fence. The hangar house issue, I think, that's up in the air. So, I'll entertain a motion to, go further on through the fence with the county.
I would propose a motion to check out what's gonna be involved with that and let Rick, pursue that.
I would second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, carry.
Just as a matter of protocol, before you take your vote, you need to ask for public comment.
Oh. We're not used to having public.
I know,
Thank you,
sometimes it
Dale.
seems kind of silly, but
Yeah.
that's the protocol.
Okay.
So, is there any comments? So be it, thank you. Hey, this is new to me, I ain't been in this chair in a long time, Okay, I've got something to bring up on, about the leased property. Well, Rick, would you like to go next with what you brought to the meeting? Go ahead and do that.
Whatever suits you, I'm happy to listen to what else is going on at the airport too, so.
Okay,
I'll
all
be
right.
here for the duration.
Two things. I tried to get it printed out before I came. I have a picture that I will slide around. I wanted to talk about it. My printer didn't like me. This is what I would like to talk about. This is happening at the airport, around the hangars. We have motorhomes there. In one location, there was 2 of them. We have vehicles parked beside a hangar. Temporary is just fine. I drive my truck in, I park beside my hangar, but it leaves with me when I'm done. But we have a situation where there's an old vehicle parked and there it is. Hasn't moved. So I wanted to review or go through the rules and regulations of these hangars and maybe highlight, because there is stuff in there that talks about that. And we might have to send letters to have this, because it's only going to get worse if we.
Yeah,
keep
no,
going.
we need to keep it clean.
Yeah, and And also in there, there's talk about you cannot run a business out of a hangar other than aviation, and that might be done also. Well, we know it is. So those are things we need to discuss and decide course of action. Thoughts, ideas? I've got a Townsend lease here. I did not get to read it ahead of time or highlight. Let's see here. It's got airport leases granted for aviation or aeronautical related activities and purposes in common with others similarly authorized, together with all facilities, equipment, improvements, and services which have been or may thereafter be provided at or in conjunction with the airport from time to time, including but not limited to land, field, the extension thereof, additions, roadways, aprons, taxiways during the term. Now this just states about has to be aviation or aeronautical related activities. So that would be if you're running a non-aviation business, I believe that is one of the areas that it's covered on that. Can't even lick my fingers. At quick glance, that's all I see on that, on that portion of it.
Nothing addressing the RVs or anything parked around, stored around the hangars, huh?
Not that there's something in here and I'm just missing it. I was just looking for the business portion of it.
In section 1-300 ground rules, subsection B or A, keep
Yep.
area responsibly cleared, storage is not permitted at all. So it means
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, I was looking at the actual lease. She is looking at the basic rules. There's two portions of this.
And they, the leases have to sign both portions.
Are you finding anything about, vehicles and things of that nature?
Let's see, vehicular traffic and parking shall be under the direct control of the board. Vehicular and pedestrian traffic shall comply with all instructions received by the airport board. No vehicles may be parked on the ramp except for temporary loading and unloading unless authorized by the board or designee. Aircraft have the right of way for anything else on the ramp, and vehicles will not be parked adjacent to any hangar or other areas as so to obstruct the taxiway, ramp, or aircraft movement. As far as vehicles go right in this here.
All right, thank you. From what I heard there, that's just talking about blocking the taxiway, not anything at the present time about that can't be stored there.
Could be we need to update that, so we eliminate any future storage problems.
Okay.
Yeah, the storage is a broad term for some people,
Mm-hmm.
so it depends on what their definition of storage, so it's probably something we need to do, is defining that.
I think, maybe that portion that Al read, about non-aviation businesses,
Mm-hmm. Can
or
apply.
or storage of non-aviation vehicles.
Correct, yeah. Okay.
Well, so this picture of, the RVs parked next to the hangars and whatnot is, I guess I'm unfamiliar, is that because they don't wanna park them at their house, or is it because someone's staying for the weekend kind of thing?
No, they've been there for quite a while. That is a living quarters.
Basically, he made his own hangar home without a hangar home.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyway, so that is, it's just, I don't think we should allow that. It's just gonna get worse and worse. I got a real big motorhome, not that I bring it down, I have a place for it, but, I think it lends itself to the future. Well, if he can do it, so can I.
Yep.
And, I think we ought to do something about that, whether we can utilize, the readings, whether we should
I think that's
read these in more detail.
There, Russ's old hangar. I think that's where John's living.
We should read these in more detail, and so I'm open to suggestions on the approach.
Another little section here, under the general section, 1-109, leasees of the airport hangar footage shall not store items or materials within the leased space that are not predominantly related to the aviation activities.
There you go. Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that we table this for one meeting so that we can visit with Mr. Ferguson and make sure he has not okayed this with that individual. We both know who that is.
Yeah.
And, it might have been, well, you can do that temporarily, and he might have allowed it, but it definitely states there in the part Jesse was reading that cannot be allowed.
Agreed.
So I would recommend we visit with the chairman when he gets back and find out if he did extend an okay, and if he did not, well, we send a letter to the individual with that highlighted and take it from there.
I'll also add something we want to put down or further look at is the other gentleman's running his business out of there. His construction lease has been extended twice or three times, and I believe that time is up and it's not done. His hangar door's not up. So then what avenue do we want to work there? So we have to review that one also.
I don't know. It's a tough one.
As we,
He assured us the last time that it would be done.
that is correct. And that's why we re-upped it the third time for another 6 months, so. And his hangar door isn't done. He does have aviation equipment in there. But anyways, I haven't seen him staying there, overnight, but he does park his trailer, he parks his skids through there every now and then, in the parking lot. It's not actually on his leased ground, it's in the parking lot. Okay, do we need a motion to, table with further information on that item?
I propose the motion. We'll see if there's a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll move on in that,
Forgot
so.
public.
Oh.
Old habits are hard to break.
How do you teach an old dog, Any comment?
I think it'd be good to nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
The airport's growing.
But I like the
Public
idea
lands.
of
It'd be a
talking
good
to Mike.
time to get it under control.
Yeah.
There is a chance that, who we're talking about did talk to Mike without anyone knowing,
It
but
is,
it
you
did
know,
say it has to be the board, not just the chairman,
Right.
I'm sure that we'd got an email on that maybe, but possibly not. So, and by the way, I hear Mike might be coming home the end of the week. You're nodding, you know,
That's what Steve said, possible.
Yeah, okay, it's possible, that'd be great. A tough go for Mr. Mike. So we'll look forward to that.
But I agree with the intent of the motion being, we need to be on the same page.
Yes.
With Mike, and so we have a united front if we do choose to, pursue it.
Any other matters want to be brought up from the floor?
As far as the rolling on 8U9, I still have not got a hold of Brandon. He's busier than hell between his shop trying to burn down and
Oh, yeah.
all the work he's got. So I'm still trying to touch bases with him to get the roller, and we'll see if we can't get that rolled. Hopefully we'll get a little moisture too.
Haven't we had him do 8U8 also?
No,
At
we
times.
have not been having him do it.
Okay.
I've been doing it, or Mike did it over at 8U8 on that grass strip. Mike run it for a while. I think Steve's probably around that roller over there too, haven't you? Haven't you?
No.
Maybe it's just Mike. But yeah, well, he's got one roller for his construction business, and you know, it's like a three-legged cat in a dirt box. It's pretty scarce.
I will say I landed at Canyon Ferry the other day and it could use rolled.
Yeah, I'm sure it could. Well,
There's a lot of loose, bigger gravel.
we've had a bunch of helicopter traffic up and down
Yep.
that runway, and
Yep.
I've addressed that with the guard, and
Yep.
so
I do have new business when we get to that point, so.
Sir?
I got new business when we get to that part in the agenda.
Which part?
The new business.
new business.
Gotcha. Okay. The new business, we just, comments from the floor. Let's take care of Rick now. Can we do that?
Got some notes here for you.
Thank you.
Two? Or did I get?
Yeah,
I
it's
did.
3 pages.
Yeah, I did.
Excellent.
Man. So much paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
One more. Okay. So the first one that I handed out is 3 pages. On page 1, the first half there is just a recap of the last 3 meetings we have. I don't think we need to cover that again. It's just, I'll eliminate those next time around, but it's just kind of reminders since we've been meeting so sporadically. Unless somebody's got any questions or comments on those first 3 main bullets.
The one in the middle on the MPE repayment of 145 from Haver.
Yeah, that's a good one.
They've
Darryl,
not
have you heard anything?
responded.
Talk about that?
Sure.
Jump up here real quick. So yeah, they had some new commissioners that were not aware of that. So I had a chance to talk with them at our last MACO conference, and they were surprised that that had happened. Anyway, so they're working on that. Our county attorney is working on trying to get that sorted out, and hopefully they will be forthcoming and repay their debt. So that's kind of where we're at that point.
So it's being looked in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Most definitely.
thank you.
So to follow up on that, I would say if they do have an interest in doing that, it'd be just a matter of when, and when they have the money coming in that goes into their account from the FAA. So whether it's this year, next year, or the following year, they will eventually be able to do it if they do honor that. And I know they have reimbursed White Sulphur Springs, so their intent is to do it. Thanks for pointing that out. Al. The next 2 items on the bottom of page 1, the CARES Act funding from last year, 2020. That was a $20,000 grant that can be used towards your usual airport expenditures. We've only requested reimbursement for a little over $6,000, and those were based on expenses that were given to me by Mike. You can ask for your fuel costs. So that may be something you want to consider, particularly because the bottom item there on page 1 is another grant that's been offered and signed by the county. It's currently with the city to be signed, and I think the attorney needs to look at it as well. But it's got essentially the same rules where you can use it for your usual expenses. It's a little confusing when you read this new one. It's if you don't read it carefully, it looks like you have to be implementing some kind of COVID mitigation strategies at your airport. But if you read it carefully, it's very similar to the previous one. So we recommended to the county that they sign on to that grant and have that availability.
I have 2 questions, Rick. One of them, are these grants just available to be used on FAA-funded airports?
There are some that are getting small grants, like 2,000 to 3,000, that are airports that are on the fringe, like Phillipsburg, where there have been on the NIPIAS, been off the NIPIAS. So I think if you're getting at Canyon Ferry, they were not offering for those kind of airports.
Okay, and the other question was to Darryl. Darryl, do you by chance have any sort of a final tally what that conversion on the fuel system cost us last summer?
Well, I think a lot of these, this $6,240 per dollar, most of that was
Yes.
part of that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
So I think that also included the internet
right,
work that had to be done and stuff. So I think that's where that.
That's correct.
okay, great. I just want to make sure that we had that covered.
Can any of these 2 be used for maintenance equipment?
I think you could make that argument. Yes.
Okay,
What do you have in mind?
mower or a tractor type, that equipment, a little bit, another spray buggy possibly. We're having trouble with our sprayer for spraying weeds and stuff.
I mean, that's an expense that you would normally incur if that's
We
how
do
you
it
want to
every year,
maintain your
you know.
airport.
You gotta kill the roller.
Yeah. That's not quite enough for that.
Yeah, but then we'd have to get a heavier trailer again.
So it can also be used for match on projects in the future. Now, right now, the FAA grants are no match. So, if you have some of this left in future years and you do require a match, you could use it towards that. But if you do have expenses, you might as well.
Because it's only good for 4 years and
Correct.
one's gone. Pretty much almost.
Correct.
All right. I
Did these-
say
And the longer they drag out, it's more paperwork. We have to do annual reporting on them and those kind of things. So if you can legitimately extinguish them, that's probably the cleanest thing to do.
I think we should visit that, some maintenance items. and
I do
stuff.
too.
All right.
I guess if I remember right from previous meetings, you guys thought about doing something different with your beacon. You wanted to put LED lighting in there or something? Is that-
Yeah.
On the taxiway, or on the,
On the beacon, on the windsock.
And
Right.
the windsock, I know you guys had some ideas on that. I mean, that's
yeah,
just normal
that would fit
maintenance
right
stuff
in.
that could be used for as well.
To my knowledge, I think we were gonna incorporate it in this airport project
Okay.
and just put a new windsock up that had all that in there, and rather than trying to retrofit it on that old windsock.
So yeah, that would be an FAA eligible project item if you choose to wait
Okay.
till the project.
Perfect.
So there's an advantage there because there's matching funds.
Say that again?
So there's an advantage there to doing it that way because there's matching
90-10.
funds.
Well,
But
if they
he said
continue
that-
this 100%, right now the projects we're doing this year, there's no match.
Yeah, so see, they're
Yeah.
paying 100% of it.
But who knows how long that's going to last. Anyhow,
Well,
Yeah,
we
well,
don't have anything to lose.
Right.
It's been 90, and then 95, and then back to 90s, so now they're doing 100.
right. Okay, on to page 2, if you want to flip that over. Actually getting to the discussion on the project. So I've covered this before, but I think it's worth reviewing. So the anticipated next phase of work would be all the preliminaries and the engineering to get it pretty much up to ready to bid. So that would be an environmental categorical exclusion. We've actually done that already because you have to even do it for the design. And that's been signed by the county and actually approved by the FAA. So that one's done in our pocket. The major work items, once we get contracted, will be surveying, geotechnical investigation, getting a DBE program built for you. It's been so long since you've done a major project, we'll have to do a new program and set some multi-year goals. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a document that says what's a reasonable amount of disadvantaged businesses that should get work or some percentage of work at the airport. Your airport layout plan is pretty aged, so it needs a pretty good, thorough go-through and the actual design. Now, the amount of the design, that's where we can vary what occurs. And let's go to that next paragraph down. This is a pretty important part. So the FAA, despite your capital improvement plan that we've been submitting year after year after year, they must have some other higher priorities in their mind because they've slotted you for 2023 instead of 2022. And I talked to Jason over at the Helena FAA 2 days ago, I think, and he says we definitely have $900,000 slotted for 2023, and that's locked in. So that's one component of money that's available for the project, but it's 2023. You also have non-primary entitlement funds. So if you look at this page, excuse me, this page here. So this is also the FAA's spreadsheet that shows what they show that you have in NPE, non-primary entitlement funds, basically in your account there. $944,000 is their tally of what you have available. Now what they don't have in there are all the reciprocal agreements like the Haver one that they've stopped tracking. So we, RPA, tracks all of our clients and just be back here. We show that if you take the FAA's numbers there and then add the ones that are owed to you, that the number is closer to 1.8 million in NPE funds is the shorthand for that, 1.8. So if you take that number Might be getting ahead of myself. I am getting ahead of myself. Keep that in mind here for a few minutes. The next steps that we need to do is decide. The 2023 was the important part I wanted to bring up in that paragraph because, you know, last time we met, you were planning on a 2022 construction. So part of me says, well, why the heck do we want to get started in 2021 for a project clear out in 2023? Well, one reason is the money requires no match. And just because it gets granted, let's say it gets granted in July, we don't have to start on it till, say, the end of 2021 or even 2022. So I think I would still recommend that we go ahead and go for a grant this year, particularly because there's no match. It won't be the full amount, but it will be, you know, the bulk of all the preliminaries and the engineering. And then the next grant would include a teeny bit of engineering to finalize the design, because the final design will depend on how much funding we think we have available. Follow me? So we'll do enough to get all the base work done, and then if we can build the taxiway and apron, we'll do that as well. If we can't, then we can kind of tailor that final design and bid package to that.
Do you think maybe their rescheduling has something to do with Helena's repavement plans?
No, they're probably working with a different pot of money for that. This would be, the state apportionment is for the whole state, and they're probably dealing with discretionary funds, which is the Northwest region.
Rick, you said that those loan monies came up to additional 1.8 million?
The addition of them to the 900,000 that the FA is showing, so there's about twice as much as they're showing. And the people that owe you money are Havre, Shelby, Fort Benton, Ennis, and Conrad. So we've been playing this game for many years where you loan out your money so you don't lose it. And we just have to keep leapfrogging it until you get to your project. And now it's getting to a point where it's going to pay
Are
off.
those available back to us?
Well,
Like when we're gonna need it?
yes, with the exception of Havre.
Okay.
All these other ones are our clients, so we know what they have.
And
So Shelby,
when does
Ennis,
that money come to us? We still have to request it at a certain time to have that into our pot?
yes.
Okay.
But each time you loaned it out, there was a date that said, okay, here's the money. We need it back by this time.
Right.
Now, whether that was actually executed, if you don't need it, maybe the FA didn't execute them. So we have to follow up on all those. So I show that Havre and Shelby, or at least part of Shelby's, was 2019. Ennis, Shelby, and Fort Benton, 2020. And then Conrad and Fort Benton. Fort Benton had two of them from you, or 2022.
Those dates you show is when we were supposed to bid it back, or it
When they
did
would be
come back?
available, not
Available.
necessarily transferred back to you.
Understood, okay. If it was transferred, it'd probably be in their number, maybe?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Okay, Ennis, Fort Benton, and what was the other one? Conrad?
Ennis, Fort Benton, Conrad, Shelby, and Havre.
Mhm.
So we basically need to make a decision. The FA is getting to a point in their grant cycle where they have to, these non-primary funds have to be basically rolled over. So they need to know if a project's going to go. And I told him I would find out tonight if we're actually going to do a 2021. This would be a design-only project to get started. And I guess, again, I'm recommending that because there will be no match required.
Should have done that, yeah. Right.
And again, it would include those items on the top of page 2. And what the sequence of events, if we say, yep, Jason, they're going to do a project, he would say, great, I need to program some money, and I'd give him an estimate. So that would be somewhat more than what I think it's going to be, because he would rather grant less than the estimate. We would draft up our contract and proposed scope of work and fee, and then the county would have to go to another consultant and do what's called an independent fee estimate to make sure it's a reasonable fee. And without getting into all the details, the way we do that is there's a whole bunch of text that says what the design and survey and geotech will involve. And there's associated spreadsheets to come up with what we think the fee should be. Then whoever you choose, we give them the text and we give them the spreadsheet, but we blank it out. So it makes it fairly efficient. They can go, oh, they're going to do this, 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 and they apply their hours and rates to that. And then when we get all done, the county would compare them and go, yep, looks reasonable. Or if they're different for some reason, then you keep drilling down to find out where you might be different. This is a fairly straightforward project, so it should be a good comparison. So one thing that would have to happen is we would have to decide who that firm would be. And I guess I think our main competitors would be the ones you'd want to use, Morrison Merrily, KLJ, or Dowell. There's a bunch of others out there too, like Armstrong, Interstate. There's some out-of-state firms like TO and some big ones like Jacobs and Mead Hunt. But, you know, somebody that's about our size or bigger, the main competitors, as you know from the aviation conferences, is Morrison Merrily, KLJ, and Dowell. And in particular this year, Morrison Merrily has been doing quite a bit of the fee reviews for us, and they've been doing what seems to me to be a pretty thorough job and not just a slap something together. So if you
Do we
want,
make that decision?
what's that?
Do we make that decision?
You can, or you could pass it to the commissioners. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, there's no difference.
I think you could decide that. You would know more than the commissioners would on.
Have you been having any of this work done by KLJ?
Yeah, we do.
I know when I was on the board for 26 years down there in Forsyth, Rosebud County, we ultimately chose KLJ. We had excellent service out of them. And I couldn't say that for Morrison Merrily.
Okay. Yeah, it's usually, you probably dealt with Craig Canfield.
I did.
He's not, I don't think he's actually an engineer, so I'm not sure if he does the fee reviews. Maybe he does. But yeah, I always coordinate through Craig. If
Yep.
I'm happy to deal with any of them.
Very, very nice individual to work with.
Yep.
Mr.
And-
Chairman, I would move that we pursue this engineering portion of this project, the portion that Rick mentioned in the scope, and we recommend KLJ Engineering to do the backup as far as the figures.
And a motion?
That's a motion.
Looking for a second?
So have you have worked with KLJ and Morrison Merrily?
Yes. By far, we had the best luck, best service out of KLJ.
Do you have an opinion either way?
We work with all of them all the time. I guess the only advantage to Morrison Merrily I would see is that, do you know Nigel Davis?
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing all of them for them lately, and he must have done 6 for us this year. So he's very familiar with our spreadsheets, would be the only advantage. But Craig and his crew have worked with our spreadsheets before too, so not really. I'm happy to work with any of them.
It's not earth shattering either way.
No.
Where's KLJ based out of?
I've worked with
Um,
Morrison
The
myself.
Dakotas, they have an office in
Dakotas is
Billings.
their home office, but they have well, they've got an office in Helena too.
No airport consultants though.
Not consultants, but Billings. They've got their aviation stuff in Montana, based out of Billings. That's where Craig Canfield is.
So if we could work with a Montana firm.
Yes.
Is Morrison Merrily based out of Helena or?
Yeah.
They are. KLJ's based out of
Bismarck, I believe.
Bismarck.
Yeah.
Change it if you like. Huh? Want me to change it?
Well, if you're not strongly opinionated either way and you've had good luck with KLJ, I don't have a problem with it, so.
Like KLJ is Montana,
They're based out of Bismarck. You'd be dealing with the Billings office.
and then Morrison is
Helena.
out here.
They have
Yeah,
offices
Helena.
all over Montana and the Northwest.
I guess I would prefer to see we stick with the KLJ and keep the competition amongst them going. Even though we're right next door to Morrison Merrily, well,
Sure.
you know,
We're talking a pretty small, deal here, I mean,
right.
Yeah, it's they're getting more expensive. I used to be able to do them for $1,000, but I've been seeing like $3,000 or more. But in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty small, and it's eligible cost. So
That's
Yeah.
covered with the FA
Yeah.
funding.
well, I'm not strongly opinionated either way, so I would second your motion.
Comments?
Nice.
Good
Ah,
job.
yeah, can be done.
See, it can be done.
Yes, sir. Okay, no comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried.
Great. So now in the middle of page 2 there, kind of after that discussion we just had, it says see funding example for review. That's really the pointing to the third page. And I was starting to allude to that. So on the top of the third page, if we were to add up the FA's tally of what you have from non-primary entitlement funds plus what we know you're owed, that's about $1.8 million. I'm keeping those round. We also know that they have $900,000 in state apportionment slotted for you in 2023. So if you add all those together, you get $2.7 million. And Jason said, of course, we'll always keep our eyes open for other money. Sometimes projects fall through, and then all of a sudden they're going, who can use this money? So it does pay to kind of, get the good coverage for your basis of your topographic survey and your geotech, so that if you do want to bring in a project like, let's say this isn't enough money to do your expanded apron and taxiway, if you have the basis, you can quickly then add a design for them and say, you bet we can use that money if we need to. So below that second block, what I'm trying to show you there is this is a very, very rough estimate because we haven't done any design or geotech or anything, but based on a project in Stanford, this is kind of how I estimated these numbers. For the pavement rehab itself, we're probably looking at somewhere around $3 million. If we do electrical, and how has your electrical been? I need to recall, it's been since 1993,
Those light fixtures are getting old. know.
and I believe it's direct bury
Yes, it is.
as opposed to Cannon duct. So we should include the electrical. It'll be much longer life and much less maintenance and headache. Back in those days, we were trying to do everything as cheap as we could, and the money wasn't nearly as available, so that's why we did direct bury back in those days. And then the new apron and taxiway, that's why I passed around that map. The blue is the existing pavement that we'd like to rehab at the very least, and it looks like we probably would have enough money to do that, just barely. That being said, the prices have been through the roof this year. We've had to drop some additive alternates and rebid some things, so who knows what it'll be in 2 years from now. Anyhow, and then what would it be, orange? I'm a little colorblind, so you have to help me there. Salmon, orange. The new apron and taxiway, I'd estimate it just shy of $1 million. So, your project could be anywhere from just shy of $3 million to almost $5 million. And that's more than the 2.7 that's currently available, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So,
And just, I apologize for having to review this, but that 2.7 million available includes those 5 airports you mentioned. the money that's owed to us.
Yes, correct. So that's kind of the funding picture. Obviously, without that 900,000 in state apportionment, we couldn't do anything next year. So we're locked into having to wait till 2023. But you just had a motion that we're going to get started here this year. Probably what we'll do is we'll get the grant in hand, and then we'll get the geotech done this year before winter gets here. And if our surveyors have time, we'll do that as well. But there's going to be no rush is what I'm getting at. So we'll probably get a late start on it in late 21 and into 2022. And then about mid-year next year, the FAA will have a better picture on what their total funding is for 2023. Let's see. So, let's see. So on the bottom of page 3, I guess would be my recommended next steps. So again, you have a lot of non-primary entitlement funds sitting there. And if you look on the FAA spreadsheet again, this one, you'll see that in the column that says fiscal year 2018, there's almost $206,000 there. If that is not used or transferred, it'll be lost and reabsorbed into the system. You don't want to do that because you've been playing this leapfrog game all along anyhow. And the engineering is not going to quite add up to that. So really we should transfer some of it. So we do have one client that needs about almost $95,000. And they could pay it back next year. So we would recommend that you loan what they need to Livingston, that $94,800. So that would knock that $206,000 down to about $111,000. And then we would use that plus a little bit of 2019 money in this design work. So that would save that money basically, and then everything past that would get rolled over into next year by the FAA.
Makes sense.
Did you give us a number on what the engineering work would be in?
I don't. I've given Jason an estimate, but without putting the contracts together, I can only estimate it, and the final number would be after the independent fee estimate by KLJ.
Yeah. Can you ballpark it?
It's probably, I looked at Stanford is probably the closest similar project.
Yeah.
And KLJ actually did that fee review, I believe. And they had estimated $214,000 for a similar scope of work, and our estimate was quite a bit less. It was like $175,000. So what I told Jason is, why don't you program, is what they call it, $200,000, and then when we get to the grant, we'll know the contract amount, and then let's say it's $180,000, then he would actually offer the grant for that amount. Mm-hmm. But we won't need 206, which is why I'm saying we should,
Use some of that.
we know somebody that can take it. It's an RPA client. I know that they can get it back next year. So
Is there a disadvantage if we overspend? So let's say it costs $180,000. We have 206 that we need to use, and we give 95 away. Is there a disadvantage of going negative on that?
no, because they would just dip into the 2019
Okay,
column.
gotcha. Yep.
And then the remainder of 2019, 2020, and 2021 will just get pushed forward.
Yep. Yep.
Good, make a motion.
Okay. Yeah, I would move that we take your recommendation and loan the $94,800 to Livingston.
Okay.
Second that.
Comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Okay, so of course we'll do that paperwork to make that transfer happen and get the task orders started, and I'll engage with KLJ for the independent fee estimate. That brings us to There was something on page 2. I guess it seems like most of the paperwork on this is city, county, and involves the county attorney. Is there a preferred method for RPA to route paperwork for signature that so it doesn't sit idle somewhere?
You talking about the electronic portion? Electronic?
We can do it paper, we can do it electronic, we can do whatever. I'm just
Yeah.
what works best. In other words, when we get the grant offer, the county needs to sign it, the city needs to sign it, and the attorney looks at it. So the logistics of how to make that happen. I know a lot of times cities don't meet as frequently, so it's harder to get on their agenda, and they have to, do the sunshine law and post it. So I'm just trying to learn the best way to make those things happen.
Yep.
Yeah, the representative from the city of Townsend.
Okay.
My name's Angie Wintrow, and I'm a council member.
Great.
Your best bet would be to go through Colleen Ward, which is our deputy clerk.
Okay.
And we do meet twice every other Tuesday. We meet.
Every other Tuesday. Okay,
So
that's good
I see on the
information.
bottom of your thing for the coronavirus relief grant.
Uh-huh.
We did have a city council meeting last night, and we are having a emergency session on Monday to have that signed.
Oh.
And we've already been in contact with Jason
Okay.
regarding that as well.
Yeah, that's what I want to avoid is having you guys have to do backflips to make things happen. So,
Yeah.
okay, so that's good to know. Colleen's the
Yeah, and she's the one that Colleen Ward, and she'll get it on the agenda, and we shouldn't have any issues.
Okay.
With any time delays with Colleen.
excellent. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
I
That's
think
good.
what happened this time, if I'm right, they had some computers crash at the city hall.
Yeah, they had some
And they lost
email.
they lost some
Yeah, they lost
emails.
some
Oh.
emails.
So that's what
Yeah,
can't, because most of the time this process goes pretty
Quick,
seamlessly.
right,
It's usually not an issue, but that happened and
Right.
they just didn't see it.
right,
And then Jason called and said, hey.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So, I know they got it sorted out.
Yeah, yeah, no, we discussed it, and, we had members missing last night, so that's why we have
I see.
scheduled another
Okay.
meeting on Monday to get that done, because it wouldn't be until the first Tuesday of next month before our next meeting, so.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's good to know. Do you know if electronic is preferred or do we need to
I
go
like the
paper?
electronic process personally. I think it goes along pretty smooth. Because as soon as the county signs it, it goes to the county attorney. As soon as he's done, it goes to the mayor and
Right.
the council
Yeah.
and the city attorney. I think it's worked good in the past.
Okay. Yeah, I think just starting a major project like this, it's
Yes.
good to get communication, how everybody likes it. And
Well, and I think.
I think they tightened up the situation down there since they
Well,
lost
Nate's gonna be extremely busy. There's
Okay.
technically 3 of us.
some
on
of our
this
forms
committee.
for,
I wasn't aware that
getting
the airport
reimbursed.
had been meeting until I
we
got
had to
word
go
from
back
you last
to
night, so
start
I'm like, I
square
didn't
one
know.
again.
So,
I don't know where the heck they
yeah,
went, but-
I'll probably be here the majority of the time from now on, because I know the
It was
summer's
about the
coming up,
time
Nate's
that-
gonna be extremely busy.
And I think that's probably, we kind of need a better communication, I think.
Yeah.
About the
and I
time they
think
were
too,
changing
because
mayors and-
I wasn't even aware.
Okay, perfect.
Great. And if you're going to be the main liaison, I'm happy. Call me anytime if you have questions or confusion or want some background on how all this works.
Okay.
I'd be happy to.
I would suggest, Rick, that you get her email and make sure she's looped in on all the
Yeah, that
emails.
would
Yep.
be great.
I'll leave you a card before I
Yeah,
leave.
that would be great.
Okay.
Thank
Excellent.
you very much for coming.
Yeah,
Great.
I would've been here sooner had I known.
Let's see. I think we covered it all. We're going to get contracts going, have another firm review it. That'll result in we'll put together what's called a grant application, and then the FAA will reciprocate with a grant offer, and that's how you pay for the engineering fees. And then we'll drag it out for about a year, and then
It's as easy to do.
it is. Yeah, we're quite busy, so. Well, I think that's what I needed to cover today. I appreciate you meeting. I know we haven't met for a while, so
So all your items are taken care of, that need to be
yes,
done.
yes. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. You have new business?
All right, thanks, you guys. So the new business, and go ahead and refer to your new map, so that'll actually help out this evening. Go to the left or the right side, the perimeter fencing.
Oh, thank you.
So the question came from the rodeo board, when the airport board plans to take that property back. So if we're considering expanding that way, would that be coming up here in 2022?
No, it's moved to 2023.
2023,
for the actual
yeah.
airport,
Mhm.
and that's in limbo, from my understanding, Rick,
Yeah.
follow along here, that we don't know if there's enough funding to do that.
Right,
So that was still up in the air,
okay,
and the actual runway is put off till 2023.
right.
Am I correct on that, Rick?
Yes.
I guess, so if you want to do your engineering though, would that be an issue too? If you want to engineer it?
I don't think that engineering will be for the new taxiway. We have to get to the point, my understanding, to see if there's funds, and then we could do it.
Close. What we would do is, since we have a survey crew there, it would probably take them just a matter of a few hours to hit that area, so we'd also collect the
Collect the
topographic survey.
data, okay.
And since a drill rig will be mobilized, we'll drill some holes there too.
And
It's
when
much-
when would we know if funds might be available or have enough? That would be in about,
Probably mid to late 2022.
But it would help tremendously if we had this portion of the engineering done, and it
Yeah.
was,
Because we might
Ready.
find out with the geotech that maybe the rehab solution is cheaper than what we had to do at Stanford, and we can stretch the dollars further, or it might be
Okay.
more expensive. That's the whole point of doing, not all the engineering. Then we can finish it off with that information.
Okay, good enough.
So would there be any problem, we have a few years, to possibly already go and get a fence installed that they can still use the pasture, all of it, right now, but have a fence already there? You know what I mean? For the new property line. And just have a gate where they can move the cattle in and out, up until we build.
that probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
Sure.
They can still use it, it saves us mowing it,
Okay. So if that's what you guys would decide to do, so do you think you'd do that in 2022 then? You don't want to do it right away, probably, right?
defense.
Or do you? Or do you? That's whatever you want to do. They just want to know when they.
Yeah, rightfully so,
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I think we're not even gonna know until
Okay.
mid to late 22 whether it can even
Okay.
be done.
Sure.
I would think, Mr. Chairman, that, I don't know, was the rodeo group, are they gonna pay for the fence? Will they put the fence in?
Well, that's their next question then. Who's responsible for fencing?
It'd be great if it was halvesies, but I don't know if they wanna do halvesies. But what about that grant money? Could we possibly use the grant money for
I
that?
say, is this fence south of the proposed development area?
Yes.
Or encompassing it?
This would be the new fence that's south of the proposed, the salmon-colored, orange, whatever you refer to.
Mhm.
You
The
can
the new
use-
fence that's south.
You can use the CARES Act or CARISA funding for that.
Yep.
And I would think that it would be our responsibility because it's
Okay.
fencing the
All right.
airport property.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would think it's
I
ours.
I would think it would be pertinent to put that fence in with a gate, say midpoint,
Okay.
so
Just as
they
the
can
baseball
open it up and
fencing.
use it, but when the time comes, the gate gets locked, and that's there, and
So here's a suggestion to stretch your dollars a little bit. If you're willing to let them use that property until they need it, and you still want to put the fence in, maybe you would purchase some materials and use some volunteer labor to stretch some of your money a little bit
that would be great.
in exchange for allowing them to use the property or something on
I
that
think,
order.
I think that would be great.
Just a suggestion, whatever you guys think.
Point
If
is
it
though,
gets it-
we're not in a hurry to put a fence there.
No.
Yeah.
No, but if we can use some of the CARES money for the materials, and the rodeo group would donate some labor to put the fence in the
Right.
gate.
Okay.
um,
But we
We're
still
gonna-
got
we're
3
gonna
years
be-
left
Yeah.
on the CARES money, though.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's no hurry to do it, obviously, but it's just an idea that maybe
Yeah.
we can start
Okay.
getting into relations with the rodeo and have them on the same page as
Sure.
we are.
Right, and, you know, you can explain to them also that we're kind of in a catch-22
Oh, yeah.
situation here also.
Yeah.
But by putting that fence in, it would allow them to use that pasture,
Yeah,
and when we see that's gonna come to an end, we can let them know, and
you bet. Sounds fair.
We'll give
Okay.
them some time to, adjust to having half a pasture at times, because I'm sure they'll probably rotate grazing for up until we are
Mhm.
losing
well,
it.
and
So,
if they've got 2 pastures there, that'll help them too,
Okay, good.
you know.
So
They
I would
should
guess that
Yeah.
Horses,
during the
cows, whatever.
survey portion, Rick, you'd survey off that, so they know where that property line is.
Can, but,
Yeah.
I was just looking at our map to see if I could tell. But yeah, we could.
Okay.
Steve, you have something?
Yeah, just, when we met, I forget, it was a year and a half ago, over at the airport, and a couple folks from the rodeo were there, and we talked about this. Remember, we also offered an exchange of the southern part of the approach, that if we put a fence up, and it was, they had to go through it, that we would let them use that
Grace?
as new grazing if this was not enough property.
Mhm.
And that was talked about, and everybody agreed that it would be looked into if it was,
Ms. Larson was
if it was
very,
needed.
very ecstatic about that.
Hmm?
The rodeo rep, Mrs. Larson, I forgot her first name, but, she's very happy with having an exchange, because it might sound like they have enough cows up there that
Mhm.
shortening that grazing pasture might hinder a little, possibly,
And,
so.
yeah, maybe a quick question to Rick, where that fence, or if there's any FAA regs, where that fence could be, to give them the most property.
Yeah, probably about 300 feet from the end of the runway.
Oh, 300 feet.
Hope, I'm surmising that the reason nothing has came about, with the rodeo board was this COVID thing that just shut the country down last year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but
it
when we
shut
talked-
rodeos down and shut everything down.
It was just talked about for an exchange.
Yeah,
So-
if we can do something to give them more grass, absolutely, we just,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah.
we-
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just sitting over there and we park on it,
Okay.
Becoming a fire hazard.
Not to mention that's a bartering chip to say, hey, help us with this fence, we'll give you this
Yeah.
pasture over
Yeah,
here.
it's just,
Yeah.
we're all part of the same county.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. it's just-
Perfect. Well, I'm sure they'll appreciate that. So if I report back to them that we're thinking 2022 timeframe, somewhere's in there, and then we'll kind of work out something as far as for materials and,
Yeah, remind them about.
Could even be as late as
some more grazing.
2023.
okay. All right, perfect. That's what I'll tell them. Okay. All right, thank you.
And, I'm not gonna move on the fence right at this time, we'll table it till next, moving forward on doing the
Yeah, I see no reason to do that now.
fence. No. Great. Any other, new business?
We might put that on the agenda for next month, though.
Yeah,
The fence,
The,
about the rodeo fence.
okay.
yeah, maybe, Daryl, could you get us an answer back if, they would be willing to donate labor on that?
Sure. Yep.
If you can get us an answer back by next month, we can act on it then.
Okay, any other business? You guys have anything from the city or? Are you covered, Rick?
I am, thank you.
And Daryl, I've got some fencing equipment too, I'm happy to pitch in if,
I would imagine it'll be a group effort.
A lot of them guys over there have fence counters.
Yeah.
Well, anything from the board that you, for new business you wanna bring up?
Something I think, I don't remember if I brought it up last time or not, but, Montana State Aeronautics has initiated a new windsock program, and will provide windsocks to all non-federal funded airports, one new windsock per year. So I have sent in the size of our windsock at Canyon Ferry, and we are on the list, and I did receive a new windsock from the state for this year, and I installed it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? I just want to talk about our windsock on our north section is in very poor shape, has been for a long time. And I think the loop, in my opinion, is too small. It needs to be a bigger windsock. It never shows the same as the front. Anyways, I think we had to look into that. And,
Yeah, it's an 18-inch one instead of a 24.
yeah, it just doesn't seem to do,
And it would be.
it just seems to be too big for the loop. Every time we put a new one up there and it gets beat up a lot. I think it needs a new loop.
Yeah, because I believe Mike and I replaced that last summer at some point.
Yeah, I brought the two windsocks back here. Mike called me and I stopped and got them. And, yeah, I just,
Is it ripped right now?
yeah,
I'll
well,
take a
it's
look
starting to
at it.
get tattered, but
I'll take a look at it
the
tomorrow.
function of it just doesn't seem to be the same as the one up, because it's smaller.
It's also lower.
Uh-huh, yes. Just something I wanted to bring, when talking about windsocks, and that one seems to get beat up more than the one up by the fuel.
I can tell you it'd be a lot more user-friendly to those of us that are changing windsocks if they were all the same size. I can't tell you the number of times we've made trips with the wrong windsock.
So if there's, something we need to do to make it higher, make it a bigger one, is there LED lights, solar powered that we can stick out there and maybe even put a little light on it each night? Don't know, is that something that,
Is this a secondary windsock at
yeah,
Townsend?
secondary on the north end?
Yeah, they make LED ones.
Solar powered?
Yeah, you could rig it up solar powered.
And there's, I'll bet that's some of that grant we could use if we did something like that.
Some of the CARES money,
Yeah.
put the proper size windsock in and put some
Yeah, I think we ought
solar
to
light on it.
continue looking at some of the repairs, some of the things we can do to use this grant money up, instead of let it sit.
And I see, have someone price it out, and what it would be to get a taller and bigger loop put on it, and to possibly install a LED solar powered
Mhm.
light source.
I like that.
Rick, do you have any kind of catalogs or anything like that that shows that? Would show,
Well, the catalog has gone away, pretty much.
Yeah, it's on here, yeah.
Google it.
do you have
Yeah,
email
there's-
addresses where you can look at the products?
I think it's really as simple as typing in windsock, and Kraus Heinz and all those companies will come up.
You don't have an old Sears Roebuck we can look at?
I actually have some on my shelf, so still like paper sometimes.
Maybe we can
Any action necessary?
take a look, maybe we can take a look and see what, couple, 2, 3, let's take a look and see what we can come up with for, Possibly
We'll
what
make
it would
that old
cost.
business for next time.
Agenda.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second?
carried. We're done.
Very good. Thanks, you guys.
Mr. Darrow, I'd like to visit with you.